The Politics of Warhammer 40,000 by Carl Benjamin. Introduction. Warhammer 40,000, also known as 40k, is a tabletop strategy game made by a British company called Games Workshop. It's a hobby that appeals to a certain kind of dedicated hobbyist, and not for the dilettante. It is not for everyone, of course, but recently elusive shifts in the political landscape have been brought into stark contrast by how they interact with the Warhammer universe, and so this becomes relevant to people who would otherwise not find this subject interesting. I think it's worth exploring these to fully understand the changes that are overtaking our civilization, and so we should begin with the Warhammer setting and the justification that underpins it. The Warhammer 40,000 universe has been devised to be a cruel and merciless place, and thank God it's fiction. But within its fictional limits, it has a consistent and well-developed backstory that gives a surprising richness to what was supposed to be merely a simple tabletop wargame that involved two fat dorks battling it out with little plastic models. It is this depth and consistency that makes fans like myself so very attached to the game. Recently, Games Workshop felt the need to actively disavow parts of their own product and explain that they don't endorse it at all. This is a very strange thing to happen, and noteworthy on the grounds that it is representative of the general moral shift currently occurring in Western culture. In the 40k universe, humanity is besieged on all sides and on the brink of total annihilation. Mankind is locked in a perpetual war with evil alien overlords who use enslaved star gods to rebuild their empire. Evil mushroom warlords who spring up from the ground and whose only joy in life is fighting. Evil aliens from beyond the stars who want to consume your biomass. Evil alien communists who want to sterilize your entire race. Evil alien elves who are sexually satisfied by torture, and elitist alien elves who don't care if you live or die, but would in fact wipe you out if only they had the chance. These alien races have what we could generously describe as deeply parochial moral systems, or we could more realistically describe them as monsters from beyond the stars who are on a constant quest to eradicate us. Conflict is so ingrained into the setting that 40k's tagline is, quote, "In the 41st millennium, there is only war." And as it is the setting for a military tactics board game, much of the lore revolves around the respective troops of each faction. The only thing holding back the extermination of humanity is the Imperium of Man, the human space empire that is eternally besieged by these hostile alien forces. The 40k universe is so constituted that, for the human race to survive as the human race, the Imperium of Man has no choice but to be a militaristic space theocracy that must fight an endless and ultimately futile war against numberless alien hordes. The Imperium of Man is the factional representative of the human race in the Warhammer 40,000 setting, and it is precisely about this faction and this faction alone that Games Workshop chose to put out a public statement against. Why? Part 1. The setting of Warhammer 40,000. The main human faction is a vast space empire called the Imperium of Man. Established in ancient times by a man known only as the God Emperor, the Imperium of Man is an attempt to preserve the human race as an authentically human project. Spread over millions of worlds across the entire galaxy, administered from its central location on Holy Terra, otherwise known as Earth, the Imperium is in a constant state of decay from within and under unremitting assault from without. The Imperium of Man is constructed on a fundamental irony. The reason the God Emperor of Mankind undertook his great crusade to forge the Imperium was to eliminate superstitious thought. Whether it be magic or religion, the Emperor wished to bring all into the light of reason and science. However, after expanding into the depths of space, it was discovered that there were, in fact, gods and magic, which the Emperor had known about in advance and kept secret from his followers. This revelation provoked a civil war in his forces, known as the Horus Heresy, in which he was mortally wounded and survives now only on life support as the living god of humanity. Without his divine leadership, the Imperium finds itself desperately attempting to survive as alien forces attack it from every side. To exist, the Imperium must be upheld by internal cohesion, military might, and, most importantly, the existence of the God Emperor on his life support machine. To uphold the imperial human state, the primary virtues of the Imperium are loyalty, purity, and order. For the human race to survive and prosper, these virtues must be maintained. In the modern era, we might describe these virtues as right-wing or conservative, but we will come back to that later. It is important to note that the Imperium's virtues are fundamentally human virtues, and not alien virtues. Consuming as much biomatter as possible in order to expand the Hive fleet may well be a virtue to the Tyranids, but it isn't in real life. The morality of the aliens is not really morality at all, from our perspective. It's just what aliens do, and humans have to fight them in order to avoid a terrible fate at the tendrils of alien conquerors. There's no point passing a moral judgment against them any more than you would morally judge a wasp's nest or a wolf pack. The only question is how you intend to defend yourself. The Imperium is defended by a multitude of military forces, but the most characteristic of the setting are the ultra-elite, genetically engineered superhuman warriors called the Adeptus Astartes, otherwise known as the Space Marines. The Space Marines are the main focus of Imperial armies because they look the coolest. They're transhuman super soldiers who fight with machine-like efficiency gained from their exacting physical training and psychological conditioning. They are the very apex of what a human being could be as a warrior, with the religious convictions of a crusading monk. Each Space Marine is capable of phenomenal acts of valor, and collectively they are capable of victory against overwhelming odds. Along with the vast conscript armies of the Imperial Guard and various other ancillary forces, the Space Marines spend their entire lives fighting the enemies of the Imperium and dying in countless horrific ways. Such a setting alone should be enough to make the Imperium of Man a sympathetic project, but when you add to this the Imperium of Man's amazing and iconic aesthetics, it is easy to see why they are Games Workshop's biggest selling faction by far. The Imperium is basically a Catholic Roman Empire in space, and its Space Marines are crusading knights in power armor, and they look amazing. The enchanting gothic look and feel of the Imperium is also consistent throughout the entire franchise, from official Games Workshop products to the many high-quality fan-made animations that really capture the spirit of the universe perfectly. One can only be mesmerized by that procession. The elite defenders of humanity, a well-oiled military machine, marching as they are, cheered by thousands, accompanied by the great war machines who thud along behind them. The aesthetics of this fan-made animation capture the effervescent groupishness of the entire project. We are all in this together. These are the heroes of mankind, our heroes, doing the grim work of defending us all from enslavement, torture, massacre, or worse. The feel of the entire setting is suitably industrial, realistic, masculine, and glorious. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of this effort to defend humanity from relentless alien foes? The Imperium's eternal struggle against conquest and ruination provides it with an aspect of nobility that the other factions lack. This is perfectly encapsulated in the moral themes of the faction. The Imperium stands for the uncorrupted, innate humanness of man in the face of destruction. It upholds standards that take great effort of will to maintain. It is noble to strive and sacrifice to uphold an order that values virtue over vice, that allows the flourishing of people who can hold up their heads with pride to do the hard thing, instead of meekly submitting to the inevitable. And it is in this beguiling image of a noble and independent mankind in the war-torn universe of the 41st millennium, from which the issue of the politics of the Imperium arises. If you'd like to read the full Deep Think article or listen to its accompanying audio track, you can get access and help us grow by becoming a premium subscriber to lotuseaters.com.